excited because we're talking to Kat Donnelly in Arizona, of all places. You can tell by the cactus behind you and stuff. So welcome.
I'm in California.
Oh, that's right. You're not in Arizona anymore. I forgot. You are in California. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How about if you just tell everybody a little bit about who Kat is and so on.
Okay, great. Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me. I'm Kat Donnelly. I'm the CEO of Azentive, and Azentive stands for Another Zen Initiative. And we are a wellness, sustainability, and emerging technologies company. And we're currently working on emerging technology to bring a little mini indoor sun to both inactivate viruses, which is very applicable to the COVID situation, as well as to grow very healthy food organically and sustainably. And my background is I'm a systems engineer, a civil engineer. I'm also a behavioral scientist, so interesting combination. And my passion is designing, implementing, and doing continuous evaluation on large-scale programs that have a positive social impact.
And to think, I told my mom I didn't want to be an accountant, and she still said I should do it. Luckily, I got out of it.
Exactly.
You know, that's brilliant. And since I've met you, I've learned so much, and that's why I really wanted you to participate in this, so you can share some of what I think is great stuff you're doing, and talk about with COVID-19 coming on, how more appropriate it became. But let's start with the infamous why type of thing. Tell me, what is your why, and more importantly, why do you do what you do?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think I was just born to do it. Ever since I was a little girl, I was super connected to nature, very passionate about the environment. From an extremely young age, I refused to eat meat. And I'm also very passionate about helping people. So I've used these passions to design programs that have a positive social impact in the world and hopefully address the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Hopefully?
Hopefully, you know, that's the goal.
No, it's fascinating in that you kind of had this, if you will, in your blood from early on.
Very early on, from a very young age. I think it came through from my grandparents, and then possibly my mom used to charge me a nickel, me and my brother a nickel, my brother and I a nickel, for leaving the lights on. And that made a huge impact in my life. I mean, you know, from 4 years old, we were getting charged a nickel. And I used to say that was my entire allowance for the week, but my mom has corrected me. And she said, no, you got a quarter. So it felt like my whole allowance. So it also made me very cognizant of waste from a really young age.
I bet waste, the value of money, and saving energy.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Pretty good. You know, I found throughout my career, the word care kept coming up all the time for me, which led to, over decades, finally getting to recognizing people like yourself who are leaders who care. But it's funny how it's taken so long to get to the point where leaders are aligning their brands, their personal brands, their corporate brands with social impact now, because they saw it's really vital to be able to get the talent that they need, the really good talent that they need. But also they've seen it's really good for business. Mm-hmm. Now, you've talked about, you've been involved in entrepreneurial world for a while now, technology, energy, well-being, culture, diverse accomplishments, education. Since I partly already revealed the answer to this question by that mini speech I just gave, can you, and this is a push of a question a little bit, can you differentiate why you are one of the leaders who care from the experiences you've had and into the future?
Okay. Well, I mean, the first thing is, I'm not sure I'm so different from others trying to make a positive impact in the world. I think we're all doing that. Maybe we could differentiate ourselves by saying we take an extremely holistic view to bring both people and technologies together to solve some of these world's biggest problems. And we do this by looking at Mother Nature's solutions. So we believe that Mother Nature is the smartest engineer on the planet. She's worked out all the problems, and there's a solution everywhere if you just look. This is a science called biomimicry. And so, you know, for instance, you spoke about my experience in energy, and we think of more energy efficiency, using energy much more efficiently, as well as the technological side. So both, like I said, the technology and the human side. But that's just one, energy is just one piece of that puzzle, right? And if you look at energy and you follow the thread, well, you can eventually get to food. And then when you look at food, you can get to health and well-being. And so life happens in this systematic and circular way. And so that's really how we approach everything we do. I don't know if it's different than how everybody else does it, but it's certainly the way we do it.
Well, I find it fascinating. I think we've talked about it at some point. You know, hundreds of years ago, there wasn't the distribution of food to different places, right? And all this stuff, and everybody grew their own things. And now you're involved in allowing people to have the sunlight inside to grow things, and also with what's going on to, as you say, deactivate the virus. I mean, that's got to be pretty cool.
It's a very cool technology. When you see this technology, it's literally like turning on the sun indoors, and people know that it's the sun. They instantly know that that's what they're feeling. But I do want to differentiate, because we're not a lighting company, and our goal isn't really to sell the technology. Our goal is the healthy food growth and the healthy people. And so, you know, if you can grow outside, or if you can get your sunlight by going outside, please do that. That's the most efficient and sustainable way to do that. But if you're stuck indoors, you know, maybe you're in a hospital or a nursing home, or, you know, some kind of care facility, or you're a vulnerable part of the population, you can't get outdoors, or maybe you just want to get your outdoor farm ready by growing the seedlings inside and getting the plants ready to plant outside. Well, then that's when you can use the technology. But definitely, if you can use Mother Nature, which is free and put on this planet for, you know, the sun's here for us for free to use, you should. So we try to take advantage of the resources that have been given to us, and then just emulate that to bring that indoors where necessary.
Well, you know, it's interesting you talked about what your parents did for you and whatnot. And I remember my grandparents, and probably every grandparent, especially of immigrants, especially, would say, as long as you have your health, that's the most important thing. Right? And they really meant it, because they really meant it. It wasn't just a saying. And so when you consider the speed of technology and the change that's happened over 50 years, and it's even accelerated to the last 10 years, and now, as you mentioned, COVID-19 being here, dramatically impacting everything, and probably having an awakening of what's really important, because we've had more time to think. How do you view the future of work, the future of business evolving and being and sustaining itself beyond?
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting question. So in a lot of ways, our company is a virtual company, so we've always worked this way, and we've always paid attention to our carbon footprint and the impact of our work long before COVID-19. And so, yes, I'm watching the presentations on the future of work, but we've always been doing that, and like many other smaller companies out there. Shaking my desk. For us, the trick is balancing the interactions with the virtual work environment. And so I think that the future of work will look more like these virtual companies and startups that have been working this way for a long time, at least a decade for us. But, you know, some of our past employees we've lost because they don't enjoy working in a virtual environment. They like the social aspect. And when you think about humans, we're social creatures. That's why this, you know, social distancing, social isolation, quarantine is really having an impact on people's mental health. So for me, you know, I think we've got to come to a balance here of the virtual work environment versus the social creature aspect of us, you know, just that we're so social. And I think a lot about doing that in a couple of ways. One is making sure that people are following their passions and working about what they really care about, because then it's not work, it's play. And so that makes it a lot more fun if, you know, you're kind of isolated, but you're playing all the time. And then two, of course, using technologies like these, we've been using these for a long time. But also making sure that we get together quarterly, which didn't happen this quarter, sadly, but as a team. So we will rent a home together and work for a week together and just, you know, do our, I'll call it rapid prototyping, you know, just do our in-person things, the things that you can really only do in person, as well as the bonding with each other. So, you know, considering our human nature, I just hope we don't lose sight of that. You know, we've been kind of losing sight of that for a long time as we've become more and more dependent on technologies. And so I think that we need to think about that very, very carefully and make sure that, you know, people are happy working at home and that they don't feel isolated. And so that's what we think about and have been thinking about for the last decade. And so, yeah.
Well, things seem to happen for a reason, it seems. And it's funny how you said we're connected. A lot of people thought we're connected, but we're not really connected with technology. And it's kind of funny how technology has now allowed us to use it maybe more effectively to connect, because we realize how important and how much we miss the social contact. So now we're really connecting. We're really, for example, I know Zoom has these special backgrounds you can put up behind you, but the ones that are really great are the ones that you see the person's home and what's the cactus behind them, or what type of this or that. It's almost that technology is becoming more authentic now, we find, because we miss so much of what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it can, right? And also technology can just be a complete disconnector. So making sure we're smart about how we do that, I think, is pretty important.
Yeah, no doubt. What role do you see current and upcoming business leaders who care playing, so that they can ensure what talent really wants now? That they can ensure that their financial well-being, their physical and mental well-being is important in that company, and then also why you find it's mutually beneficial for the business and also flows right into the community.
Well, I think it's a few things. First and foremost, I believe we need to lead by example. That's maybe the most important part. And I like giving my team a lot of flexibility if they can work when they feel like working. You know, we have one team member that likes to work at 2 a.m. Well, I don't care. If that's what time you want to work, then work that time. Right. As long as you're happy and you get your job done. And then we need to share our best practices out, you know, to the world. I think that's going to be really important. And then listening to each other and making sure that there's that, you know, one of the things we've sort of dropped out of our, I guess, toolkit is we don't do performance reviews anymore. We just do one-on-one meetings where we talk about what's going well and what's not going well. And I think making sure to stay socially connected, despite the fact that, you know, I'm in California or sometimes Arizona, as you talked about, versus, you know, other people being in Minnesota or Oregon or wherever they might be, Canada. So making sure that we're able to do, yeah, go Canada, that we're able to do all of that and stay emotionally and socially connected, even though, you know, there's no hugging going on and, you know, those types of things, or even just the coffee breaks that people take together and just talk about the weather, which seems odd, but it's a topic that brings everyone closer together, you know? So it's these types of things. And I believe that that's challenging for me, because a lot of times when the meeting starts, I just want to get back down to business. You know, okay, what are we here for? What's the agenda? What are we doing? And taking that time to hear about, you know, what somebody's dog did today, or all of those things is something that I've had to pause and breathe on, and, you know, allow that time for the team, and knowing that, you know, we are social creatures, so we don't always want to just get right into the business. And if that time might feel wasted for some, but it's very valuable in terms of bonding and feeling connected.
No doubt. So I had another interview recently where the person's dog jumped on their lap. I saw a black
tail go by.
Going to jump on your lap during the interview?
No, I don't let her do that. but she did steal her bandana. I think she's giving me a little sign of, hey, I want to go out.
Well, tell her we just have like one more question. And so what one piece of advice would you give to younger kids and all the graduating students right now, the upcoming leaders who care, for like what now? What next?
You know, I'm going to go back to, you know, make sure your work feels like play. Do what you love and what you feel creative doing and that you feel positive about. And if that changes, don't be afraid to switch careers, you know, and switch gears. I've had no less than 7 different careers, and it just makes each one of my roles stronger. It makes me stronger in those roles and able to better, just to better perform and to continue to do what I'm passionate about at all times. And that passion shifts as we grow as human beings. And so that would be, I think, my piece of advice.
That's probably brilliant, because that is probably part of the definition of the future of work, is it won't always be the same, right?
Right. It won't be the same. One of our mottos is test, learn, adapt. And our marketing gal, Sarah, she's amazing. She likes to say that our superpower is flexibility, you know, and adaptability, and just being able to adapt as we need to. And you know, the only constant is change. So if you're not willing to adapt, well, you're going to be left behind. So follow your passions, adapt. Don't be afraid of change, because change often brings really good things that you never saw coming.
And partner with Mother Nature.
Well, yeah, for us, that's a given. Some people think that's a little foo-foo, but you know, for us, that's just a given.
So, Kat, based on, we're talking about, most important thing is health, what my grandparents saying. We're talking about COVID-19 is here. We're talking about people's livelihoods and the strife from that. Let's get real here. Is this an opportunity that, like we talked, Mother Nature, in an interesting way, is giving us to make dramatic changes for our own good, for our own well-being, for our own physical well-being, like you talked about with our immune system, for our own financial well-being, our mental health well-being? Are we being presented an opportunity here to take advantage of, to get things right?
Absolutely. I think with crisis comes the opportunity for change, widespread change. This happens a lot. If we look back in history, big crises cause a lot of change. And we always talk about change needing to start with small things. And the first thing I believe we should be changing are how we treat our immune systems. If you really want to fight a virus off, you need a strong immune system. And this immune system stems from, getting enough vitamin D, having a healthy mental health, having healthy mental health. Okay, said that really strange, but, and then eating healthy. And so a lot of this stems back to these systematic issues with our food supply and the fact that we're eating chemically laden foods, lots of processed foods, lots of fast foods, things that are convenient, food that's being shipped hundreds of miles, sometimes thousands of miles, picked, before it's ripe, and then covered in chemicals and all of those things. So, getting back to the future of growing our food locally in our own backyards, without the chemicals, with the sunlight, eating healthier, boosting our immune systems. And so the last thing we really need to be doing is sitting indoors under artificial lights and eating processed foods. So that's where I think one of the places we can really start, and that can help financially too, because we can bring these things locally, and so we can bring in the local assets and then share out the dividends locally in the communities, and so to benefit the communities. But we need to start these big changes with small changes, because these small changes add up to large impacts, and that's how people change their behavior. They don't often make a huge change in their behavior overnight. So that's how I like to think about it.
It's interesting because that totally impacts, maybe an obvious statement, our mental well-being too, because it's been shown that if you're cooking together, if you're growing stuff, you got your hands dirty in the soil, it's not just you got your hands dirty in the soil. Doesn't all that impact us in so many ways?
Absolutely. Okay, this might start to sound a little Californian, but we get a lot of energy from the sun. The sun is the life force for everything on this planet, with the exception of a few things, but pretty much everything on this planet. And Earth, we get a natural frequency out of the Earth. So when you've got your hands in the soil and you're getting natural sunlight and the frequencies that come along with that, that impacts your well-being. We all know intuitively, if you go out for a walk first thing in the morning, you feel better for the whole day. And that's because you're getting that energy and frequency from the sun. So it's a chance to not only come back to the earth, but come back to more community, socially driven things. Like I was speaking about earlier, we're social creatures and we like to do things socially. And then you just feel good. There's something that one of my advisors in my PhD program called the IKEA effect. Putting your IKEA furniture together, you like it more because you put it together. It's the same thing when you grow your own food. You're just more vested in it. You have ownership of it, accountability, and so you're more inclined to eat healthier and do healthier things. And then having that peer pressure of doing it together, and that social support is the other end of that peer pressure. Of that scale. And so doing both of those help a lot.
I had somebody, another one of the leaders who cared, told me, do you remember when, or might not remember, when towns were built, you had town hall and you had the promenade around town hall, and then you had the community around it. And it was a community, a true community, and they did grow together. They did get together for community events, a fair, whatever it may be. And I still see that to some degree. But it wasn't by accident that it happened that way, right? I mean,
that's correct.
That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And when you look at the resiliency research, and so for instance, a community goes through a flood or goes through, a fire, it's those communities that are more connected that recover a lot quicker. It gives you resiliency. It enables you to support each other. We're stronger together. There's a lot of talk about that now is, we can do this together. And, one of our company affirmations is, I can do this, we can do this together. And we've been saying this long before, this crisis, is when we act together, then we can get more done and we're much more resilient.
I've actually seen studies, you've seen way more studies than I have, but I've seen studies where they've actually proven in certain towns, how valuable and the most important thing to fill our heart and soul is belonging to a community by far. And it makes sense. We all feel it. Yeah,
we all feel it. We're social creatures. That's just who we are. And we're better when we're working with other people and collaboratively.
So businesses can actually benefit from going in this direction though.
Absolutely. It's profitable, right? Employee engagement programs that boost the health and wellness of their employees, the mental health, the physical health, they're more profitable. And not by a little bit, it's by a long shot, something like 7 times more revenue. And that's what the studies show. And so it all goes together. It's a system. The healthier, our motto is healthy profits, healthy people, healthy places. And it's not an accident. It's on purpose that we chose that, because we know that things are healthier when we're working together socially and we're caring about people's well-being.
And that's how easy it is to be one of the leaders who care. There you go.
There you go. There you have it. Just got to care.
All right, we'll continue this some more. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's good to see you.
You too.